All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to section 2 in chapter 3, we are going to be doing some estimating. Estimating, of course, means that we are going to be rounding. We know what rounding is. We have talked about rounding before. Now, there are different methods that we are going to use for rounding. First of all, sometimes we're going to be told to round to a particular place. Okay, we know what that is. We've seen that before. I'm not going to focus on that. Second, there's a method called clustering where you round everything to the same value. Sometimes that means rounding up, sometimes it means rounding down. Third, there's a method called front-end estimation. All right, front-end estimation means you only use the front part of the decimal and you ignore everything to the right side of the decimal. Front-end estimation is not rounding to the nearest whole number or rounding to the nearest integer. I know we don't use the term integer here, but really the best way to talk about this is to just kind of go in and do some examples. And most of these are word problems, by the way. So, okay, take a second, write down the word problem, and that's it. Okay, assuming you took a second, you wrote everything down, you paused, you did what you had to do. If we use clustering, let's talk about how this is actually going to work. Well, the real problem would be to add these numbers together. Clustering basically says, hey, I'm just going to make them all 4. All right, I add them up, 12, it's approximately 12 hours. That's it. Very straightforward, very simple. All right, not much to it. Okay, if we round to the nearest whole number, again, here's what the problem is telling us to do. Now it's a little bit different. We're not making everything the same number. Round to the nearest whole number means round to the ones place, so we have to decide individually where we are rounding up and down. Okay, so that's where we get the estimate for this one. Now I'm going to tell you right now, examples 2 and 3, we're not even going to talk about. There's just no point to discuss them. All right, because we've done them before. We basically did them in chapter 1, so moving on. So we're going to use front-end estimating. Now, that is where people tend to have a little bit of a problem. Okay, first things first. Front-end estimating is throwing out the decimals. That's it. So each one of these numbers will be changed to a whole number. And when I add them together, I get an underestimate, a number that I know is too low. And I know it's too low because I threw the decimals out. So what we do is after we're done getting this low number, we go, you know what? Let's take every decimal and round it up. We're either going to round it up to 1 or 0.5. So when I look at these numbers, the 0.99 from 9.99 will round up to 1 because it's bigger than 0.5. The 0.85 will round up to 1 because it's bigger than 0.5. The 0.2 will round up to 0.5 because it's not bigger than 0.5. The exception to this rule would be if the decimal was already a whole number. If it was like 3.0, we wouldn't round that. We would just leave it 0. We wouldn't change anything. Okay? And then I'm going to add up these new decimals. So I'm going to add that 1, and that 0.5 and get 2.5. And now I'm going to add that 2.5 to my lower number of 39, which gives me 41.5. So this estimates a range. It gives us several values, okay? So the answer is anywhere between 39 and 41.5, okay? That's the one that people usually need to practice more, so that's what we're going to do here, okay? It's a 2-part process. First, add up the whole number part, then round the decimals and add that up, and that'll give you your 2 numbers. Take a second, pause, write down everything you have to, and we'll go right into the answers, all right? So here we go. Again, anything that's not clear, we can discuss in class, we can answer, we can talk about in greater detail. Okay. Very short section. That's it. We're done. Here's the homework. See you in class.